The mountain was quiet that morning. Snow covered the trees and the wind was cold. Walked slowly up the narrow path. His sister followed close behind him. They had been hiking for 3 hours already. Their legs were tired, but they kept moving. Was 28 years old. He worked as an engineer in a factory that made car parts. It was not exciting work, but it paid well. Was 25. She studied physics at the university. She was very smart, smarter than. He always told her this, and she always laughed. They came to these mountains every spring. It was their tradition. Their father used to bring them here when they were children. He died 5 years ago, but they still came. It was their way of remembering him. The path turned left around a large rock, stopped walking. Something was wrong, he could feel it. The air smelled strange. It smelled like burning metal, like electricity. Noticed it too. She grabbed her brother's arm. "Do you smell that?" she asked. Nodded. He looked around but saw nothing unusual, just trees and snow and rocks. But the smell was getting stronger. It was coming from somewhere ahead. They walked forward slowly. The path went up a small hill. When they reached the top, they both stopped. They could not move. They could not speak. They could only stare. In the valley below them was something impossible. It was a ship, not a boat, not an airplane. It was something else, something that should not exist. It was huge, maybe 200 meters long. It was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. Parts of it were broken. Large holes showed the inside. Smoke rose from several places. The ship was half buried in the earth. Trees around it were burned black. The snow near it had melted. The ground was cracked and torn. His hand shook. "What is that?" she whispered. Did not answer. He could not answer. His mind was trying to understand what his eyes were seeing. This was not human. This was not from Earth. This was something from somewhere else. They stood there for a long time, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. Time seemed to stop. Finally spoke. "We need to get closer." Shook her head. "No, we need to leave. We need to call someone." "Call who?" "The police, the army," laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They won't believe us. We need proof." He started walking down the hill toward the ship, hesitated, then followed. She was scared, but she could not let her brother go alone. As they got closer, they could see more details. The metal was covered in strange symbols. They looked like writing, but no language had ever seen. There were windows, but they were dark. Nothing moved inside. Reached out and touched the metal. It was warm, not hot, but warm, like it was alive. "This is alien," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "This is actually alien." Took out her phone and started taking pictures. Her hands were shaking so badly that most of them were blurry, but she kept trying. They needed evidence. They walked around the ship. On the other side, they found a large opening. Part of the hull had been torn away. They could see inside. There were machines and screens and things they did not understand. Everything was broken. Everything was damaged. But it was still beautiful. Even destroyed, it was the most amazing thing they had ever seen. "Someone crashed this here," said. "Someone left it here." "Why?" asked. Thought about it. He looked at the damage. He looked at how the ship was half buried in the earth. He looked at the burned trees and melted snow. "They didn't mean to leave it," he said slowly. "They were hurt. They were running from something. They crashed here and then." He paused. "And then they left. They abandoned it." Abandoned it? Why would they abandon something like this? Walked inside the ship. His feet made soft sounds on the metal floor. Lights flickered weakly above him. Some of the screens showed symbols he could not read. The air inside was stale and smelled like chemicals. "Because they couldn't fix it," he said. "Look at this damage. Whatever hit them, it hit them hard. They probably thought this ship was finished. Worthless." He touched one of the screens. It flickered and died. "They thought we were primitive," said quietly. She was understanding now. "They looked at Earth and saw nothing important. They didn't think we could do anything with this, so they just left it here, like garbage." Nodded, like throwing away a broken toy. They didn't care. We were nothing to them. Anger rose in his chest. He did not know why. He had never met these beings. He knew nothing about them. But the idea that they looked at his world, at his people, and saw nothing worth caring about, it made him angry. He walked deeper into the ship. There was a large room in the center. It must have been the control room. Chairs were scattered on the floor. Screens hung from the walls at odd angles. In the middle was a large console with many buttons and lights. Stood in the center of the room. He closed his eyes. He could almost feel the ship around him. It was broken, yes. It was damaged and abandoned, but it was not dead, not completely. "I can fix this," he said. Came up beside him. "What?" "I can fix this." He opened his eyes. They were bright with determination. "I'm an engineer. This is a machine. A very advanced machine, yes, but still a machine. Machines can be understood. Machines can be repaired." Stared at him. "This is alien technology. We don't know anything about it." "Then we learn." He looked at his sister. "Think about it. Think about what this means. Aliens came to our world. They looked at us and saw nothing. They threw away their garbage on our planet because they thought we were too stupid to matter." He walked to the main console and put his hands on it. "I want to show them how wrong they were." Was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "We can't do this alone," she said. "We need help. We need resources. We need the government." Nodded. "I know, but we have to be careful. If we tell the wrong people, they will take this from us. They will lock it away. We need to find the right people, people who will understand, people who will help us actually do something with this." They spent another hour in the ship. They took more pictures. They made notes. They tried to understand as much as they could. When the sun started to set, they finally left. The walk back to their car was long. They did not speak much. Their minds were too full. The world had changed in a single day. Nothing would ever be the same. When they reached the car, stopped and looked back at the mountain. "Those aliens," she said, "when they come back, when they see what we did with their garbage," she paused, "they're going to regret ever coming here." Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just found a purpose. "Yes," he said, "they will." 3 weeks passed after and found the ship. They told no one. They kept the secret between themselves. Every night they talked about what to do. Every night they argued. Finally, they made a decision. Knew a professor at her university. His name was Doctor. She was 50 years old and had worked for the government before becoming a teacher. She was smart and she was careful. Most importantly, she knew people with power. Went to her office on a Tuesday afternoon. She closed the door and showed her the pictures. Doctor did not speak for a long time. She just stared at the phone screen. Her face was pale. "This is real?" she finally asked. "Yes," said. "My brother and I found it 3 weeks ago. We didn't know who to tell." Doctor stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the campus. Students were walking between buildings. Cars were driving on the streets. Normal life was happening everywhere. But she knew that normal was about to end. "You were right to come to me," she said. "If you had told the wrong person, this would have become a political problem. Other countries would fight over it. It would become chaos." She turned back to, "I will make some calls. We need to do this quietly. We need people who can be trusted, people who understand what this means." Within 2 weeks, a secret team was formed. It had no official name. It did not appear in any government documents. The money came from hidden places. The people came from all over the country. Was brought in as the lead engineer. He quit his job at the factory without telling anyone why. His thought he was crazy. He did not care. Joined as the physics expert. She left the university. Doctor told everyone she was taking time off for personal reasons. They also needed security. The government sent a soldier named Minu. He was 32 years old and had served in the military for 10 years. He was quiet and serious. He never smiled. But when he saw the ship for the first time, even he could not hide his amazement. "I've seen a lot of things," he said softly, "but nothing like this." The team set up a base near the crash site. They built walls around the valley. They installed cameras and sensors. No one could come in or out without being watched. To the outside world, the area was now a protected nature reserve. No visitors allowed. The work began immediately. Spent his first month just looking. He walked through every part of the ship. He touched every machine. He studied every screen. He did not understand most of what he saw, but he watched carefully. He noticed patterns. The aliens had designed everything in a logical way. There was a system to it. Wires went from one machine to another in consistent ways. Power flowed in certain directions. Once understood the basic rules, he could start to guess how things worked. Focused on the energy systems. The ship had some kind of reactor in its center. It was damaged but not destroyed. Strange crystals sat inside a metal container. When she scanned them with her instruments, the readings made no sense. The crystals seemed to produce energy from nothing. "This breaks the laws of physics," she told the team one night. "According to everything we know, this should be impossible." Doctor smiled. "Then our physics is incomplete. We need to learn their physics." Minyu made sure they were safe. He trained a small group of soldiers to guard the site. They patrolled day and night. He also started studying the alien weapons they found on the ship. There were guns and devices he did not recognize. Most were damaged, but some still worked. He held one of the guns in his hands. It was surprisingly light. There was no trigger, just a smooth surface that seemed to respond to touch. He pointed it at a rock and pressed the surface gently. A beam of blue light shot out and turned the rock into dust. Minyu put the weapon down carefully. His hands were shaking. "We need to understand these," he said. "If there are more of these aliens out there, we need to be ready." Months passed. The team grew from 20 people to 50, then to 100. They built laboratories and workshops. They brought in computers and machines. The small camp became a hidden city. Progress was slow at first. Every discovery led to more questions. Every answer created new problems. But slowly, very slowly, they began to understand. Figured out how the ship's main systems worked. The aliens used a kind of computing that was completely different from anything on Earth. Instead of zeros and ones, they used patterns of energy. It was strange, but once he understood it, he could read their data. He found records in the ship's computers, video logs. The aliens looked like tall insects. They had 4 arms and large black eyes. Their skin was gray and hard like armor. When they spoke, it sounded like clicking and humming. Could not understand their language, but he could see their faces. He could see how they looked at the screens that showed Earth. There was no interest in their eyes, no curiosity. They looked at his planet the way a person looks at dirt on their shoe. Something to be ignored, something not worth thinking about. The anger that felt on the first day came back. It was stronger now. He worked harder. 1 year after the discovery, they had their first major success: fixed the reactor. She had spent 12 months studying the crystals. She ran thousands of experiments. She failed again and again, but she never gave up, and finally she found the right combination of conditions. The reactor came to life. It was a small light at first, a gentle glow from inside the metal container. Then it grew brighter. Energy flowed through the ship systems. Screens that had been dark for years suddenly turned on. Machines started to hum. The team gathered in the main control room. They watched in silence as the ship woke up around them. Walked to the central console. It was covered in lights now, all of them glowing. He reached out and touched one of the screens. A voice spoke. It was not a human voice. It was the clicking, humming sound of the aliens, but underneath it there were words. The ship's computer was translating. "System restart complete. Main power online. Navigation offline. Weapons offline. Hull integrity at 17%. This vessel is classified as damaged. Recommend abandonment. Laughed. It was a strange sound in the quiet room. Recommend abandonment, he repeated. They gave up on you. They left you here to rot. He touched the screen again. We're not going to abandon you. We're going to make you better than you ever were. Doctor stepped forward. The ship's computer might have useful information, technical data, star charts, maybe even information about these aliens. Everyone looked at her. She was reading one of the screens. That's what they call themselves, the Empire. Empire, Minyu said quietly. That means there are a lot of them. Yes, kept reading. According to this, they control hundreds of star systems. They've been traveling through space for thousands of years. They've conquered many other species. The room was silent. The weight of this information pressed down on everyone. They were not just dealing with a crashed ship. They were dealing with an empire, a powerful civilization that had been expanding across the galaxy for. And that empire had come to Earth. It had looked at humanity and decided they were nothing. His hands tightened into fists. Then we have a lot of work to do, he said. The ship is awake now. That's the first step. The next step is to make it fly, and after that, he looked at the others. His eyes were hard. After that, we make it fight. No one disagreed. 2 more years passed. The ship changed. It was no longer just an alien vessel. It was becoming something new, something human. Stood on a platform high above the main work floor. Below him, hundreds of workers moved like ants. Machines lifted heavy metal pieces. Sparks flew from welding equipment. The sound of hammers and drills filled the air. The original alien hull was still there, but it was covered in new armor now, human armor. They had taken the strongest metals from Earth and combined them with the alien materials. The result was something neither species could make alone. Came up beside him. She looked tired. Dark circles were under her eyes. She had been working 20-hour days for months, but she was smiling. The new power system is ready, she said. We finished installing it this morning. Looked at her, the nuclear reactors. She nodded. 3 of them, combined with the alien crystal technology. She paused. This ship now has more power than anything else humans have ever built. More power than all our nuclear plants combined. Whistled softly. Can the systems handle it? I redesigned them, pulled out a tablet and showed him the blueprints. The aliens built their ship to be efficient. They used exactly as much power as they needed, nothing more, but I changed that. Our systems can push harder, go faster, hit stronger. Studied the blueprints. His sister was brilliant. She had taken alien technology that humanity had never seen and improved it. She had found weaknesses the never knew existed. The engines, he asked. Ready for testing next week. I increased their output by 40%. The ship will be faster than any vessel of the same size. Put his hand on her shoulder. You're amazing. She smiled, but it faded quickly. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You figured out how everything works. I just made it better. We make a good team. Down on the work floor, a new section was being installed. It was the weapons platform. This was Minyu's area. The soldier had spent 2 years studying weapons. He had taken them apart. He had put them back together. He had learned how they worked. And then he had started thinking about how to make them more dangerous. The original weapons used focused energy beams. They were powerful, but they had limits. They could only fire in one direction. They took time to recharge. They were designed for careful, controlled combat. Minyu did not want careful. He wanted overwhelming. He walked among the new weapons his team had built. There were missile launchers that could fire hundreds of projectiles in seconds. There were energy cannons that combined human explosives with beam technology. There were defense systems that could detect and destroy incoming attacks before they got close. And in the center of it all was his masterpiece. It was called the hammer. It was a weapon that used the same principle as the alien energy beams, but on a much larger scale. Instead of focusing the energy into a narrow beam, it released it all at once in a massive wave. Minyu had tested it once on a small scale. The wave had destroyed everything within 300 meters. Nothing was left, not even dust. "Sir," one of his soldiers called out, "the targeting system is installed." Minyu walked over to check the work. The targeting system was human technology, modified to work with alien sensors. It could lock onto targets from thousands of kilometers away. It could track multiple enemies at once. It could calculate the best angle of attack in milliseconds. "Good work," Minyu said. "Test it tomorrow. Make sure everything connects properly." Doctor watched all of this from her office above the work floor. She had computers and screens everywhere. Data flowed in constantly. Reports from every part of the ship. Updates from every team. She was not young anymore. The years of work had taken their toll. Her hair was gray now. Her joints ached, but her mind was as sharp as ever. She looked at the reports from the alien database. They had spent 2 years extracting information from the computers. Star maps, technology blueprints, history files, communication records. What they found was not encouraging. The empire was vast. It covered more than 300 star systems. Billions of lived on dozens of worlds. Their military had thousands of ships, some of them much larger than the one that had crashed on Earth. But there was more. They were not just travelers, they were conquerors. They had found other intelligent species across the galaxy. Some they traded with, some they ignored, and some they destroyed. The records showed planets that had been burned clean, species that no longer existed. They did not hate these beings. They simply decided they were in the way, so they removed them. Doctor felt cold when she read these files. Earth was lucky. They had looked at humanity and seen nothing worth destroying. But that could change. If they ever decided Earth had something they wanted, they would come back, and they would not leave any garbage behind next time. She called a meeting that night, and Minyu gathered in the main conference room. The room was deep inside the ship, protected by layers of metal and shielding. "We're making good progress," Doctor began. "The ship will be ready to fly within 6 months, but we need to talk about what happens after that." Minyu spoke first. "We fight, that's why we're doing all this." "Fight what?" Doctor asked. "One ship against an empire, we would lose." "Then what do you suggest?" Doctor turned on a large screen. It showed a star map. Hundreds of dots spread across the image. Each dot was a controlled system. "I've been studying their patrol routes," she said. "They check on their territory regularly. They send ships to every system, including ones they consider unimportant." She pointed to a dot near the edge of the map. "Earth is here. Based on their patterns, they will send a ship to check on this area within the next 2 to 3 years." Leaned forward, "So they're coming back?" "Yes, not to invade, just to look, but if they find this ship," Doctor let the sentence hang. "They'll see that we're a threat," finished. "They'll come back with more ships." "Exactly." Doctor changed the image. Now it showed a single patrol ship. "The patrol that comes here will probably be 1 ship, maybe 2, small vessels, lightly armed. They won't expect any resistance." Minyu understood immediately. "We hit them first, before they can send a message back." Doctor nodded. "We destroy them completely. We make sure no one knows what happened. That buys us time to prepare." Was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Prepare for what?" Doctor looked at him. Her eyes were tired but determined. "To make sure that when they finally understand what we are, we're ready to face them. Not just defend ourselves, but to make them afraid." The room was silent. The weight of her words settled on everyone. Spoke softly. "They threw us away. They thought we were nothing." She looked at the star map on the screen. "I want them to regret that. I want them to understand that they made a terrible mistake." Minyu stood up, His face was hard. "They will. When they see what we've done with their broken toy, they'll understand." Looked at his hands. These were the hands that had first touched the alien metal 3 years ago. These were the hands that had worked every day since then to bring the ship back to life. "We started this together," he said. "We'll finish it together. Whatever comes next, we face it as a team." Doctor smiled. It was the first smile anyone had seen from her in weeks. "Then let's get back to work," she said. "We have a ship to finish." They returned to their stations. The work continued through the night, and in the heart of the ship, the reactors hummed with power. The broken garbage they had thrown away was about to become their worst nightmare. The day finally came. It was early morning when the sensors detected it. A ripple in space, far beyond the moon. Something was coming through. Minyu was on the bridge when the alarm sounded. He looked at the screen and felt his heart begin to beat faster. 3 years of preparation, 3 years of waiting. It was all leading to this moment. "Contact confirmed," said one of the operators. "2 vessels, signature. They're about 4 hours away at current speed." Minyu pressed a button on his console. "All teams, this is Commander Minyu. We have incoming contacts. This is not a drill. Report to battle stations." Throughout the ship, which they had named the Phoenix, people began to move. Engineers ran to their posts. Soldiers grabbed their weapons. The air was tense with excitement and fear. Was in the engine room when the alert came. He had been checking the power connections one last time. He wiped the grease from his hands and looked at his team. "This is it," he said. "Everything we built, everything we learned. It all comes down to the next few hours." He took a deep breath. "I trust every single one of you. Now let's show these aliens what humanity can do." His team nodded. They moved to their positions with practiced efficiency. The engines hummed with barely contained power. Was in the reactor room. The 3 nuclear reactors stood behind thick glass, glowing with energy. The alien crystals in the center of each one pulsed with light. She watched the readings on her screen carefully. "Power output stable," she said into her communicator. "We're ready to increase to combat levels on your command." Doctor was on the bridge with Minyu. She sat at the main science station, monitoring all the ship systems. Her screens showed everything: the approaching ships, the Phoenix's status, the position of the moon and Earth. "They don't know we're here," she said quietly. "Our position behind the moon is blocking their sensors." Minyu nodded. "Good, we stay hidden until they get closer, then we move." The next few hours passed slowly. The Phoenix remained still, hiding in the shadow of the moon. The crew was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what was coming. Found himself remembering the day he first saw the crashed ship. That broken, abandoned thing in the mountains. He remembered touching the warm metal. He remembered the anger he felt when he realized the aliens had thrown it away like garbage. Now that garbage was the most powerful weapon on Earth, and he was going to use it. The ships came closer. On the bridge screens, Minyu could see them clearly now. They were elegant in a cruel way, long and sleek, with curved wings and glowing engines. They moved through space like predators, confident and calm. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Distance 100,000 kilometers, the operator announced. "They're heading straight for Earth. Estimated arrival 2 hours. Minyu stood up. "This is close enough. Bring the engines to full power." In the reactor rooms, fingers flew across her controls. Increasing output now, engines at 50%, 60, 70. She watched the numbers climb. Full power achieved. Phoenix is ready to move. The ship began to shake slightly. Power flowed through every system. Lights grew brighter. The hum of the engines became a steady roar. "Navigation," Minyu commanded, "set an intercept course. We come out from behind the moon directly in their path. I want them to see us." Course set. Minyu looked at the crew around him. These were good people, brave people. They had given years of their lives to this moment. He was proud to lead them. "All hands," he said, his voice calm and clear. "This is the commander. We're about to engage the enemy. Remember why we're here. Remember what they did. They looked at our world and saw nothing. They left their trash on our planet because they thought we were too primitive to matter." He paused. "Today we prove them wrong. Today humanity announces itself to the galaxy, not as prey, not as garbage collectors, but as equals, as warriors, as a species that will never be ignored again." He sat down in the command chair. "Helm, execute." The Phoenix moved. It came around the edge of the moon like a ghost. Its engines blazed with blue fire. Its weapons systems powered up, filling the ship with a low, threatening hum. On the ships, alarms began to sound. The alien crews stared at their screens in confusion. Their sensors were showing something impossible, a ship where there should be nothing. But it was different, wrong. It had been changed. The commander clicked his mandibles in annoyance. He opened a communication channel. "Unidentified vessel, this is Commander of the Empire. You are using stolen Imperial technology. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." On the Phoenix's bridge, Doctor played the message. Everyone listened. Then Minu laughed. "He thinks we stole their ship," he said. "He doesn't understand." He opened a return channel. "Commander, this is Commander Minu of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We didn't steal your ship. You gave it to us. You threw it away on our planet like garbage." He let that sink in for a moment. "We fixed it. We made it better. And now we're going to show you what a mistake that was." He closed the channel before they could respond. "Fire all forward weapons." The Phoenix unleashed hell. Energy beams and missiles erupted from the ship. They crossed the space between the vessels in seconds. The first ship tried to turn away, but it was too slow. The weapons hit its shields, which flared bright and then collapsed. The hull was torn apart. Explosions rippled through its structure. In 10 seconds, the first ship was gone. The second ship had more time to react. It raised its shields and began to return fire. Green beams of energy shot toward the Phoenix. "Evasive maneuvers," Minu ordered. "Give me more power to the shields." The Phoenix rolled and dodged. Some of the shots missed. Others hit the shields and were absorbed. The human-alien hybrid armor held strong. "Shields at 80%, Doctor reported. Minimal damage." "Target their engines," Minu commanded. "I don't want them running." The weapons officer adjusted the targeting system. A moment later, a focused beam of energy struck the ship's rear section. The engines exploded in a burst of light. The alien ship was now drifting, unable to flee, unable to fight effectively. "They're trying to send a transmission," Doctor said. "A distress call. They're trying to contact the Empire." Minu's face hardened. "Block it. Destroy their communication array." More weapons fire, a precise strike. The ship's antenna was vaporized. Now the alien vessel was alone, crippled, silent. "Bring us alongside them," Minu ordered. "I want to see their faces." The Phoenix moved closer. Through the windows, the humans could see the damaged ship clearly. Fires burned inside its hull. Bodies floated in the sections exposed to space. Minu stood up and walked to the main window. He looked at the destruction they had caused. He felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. The aliens had come to check on Earth, to make sure the primitives were still behaving, to confirm that their garbage was still rotting where they left it. Instead, they found a warship. They found a species that refused to be ignored. They found their own technology turned against them. "Commander," Doctor said quietly, "what do we do with them? The ship is disabled but not destroyed." Minu thought about it. There were survivors on that vessel who had done nothing except follow orders, beings who had families somewhere across the stars. But if any of them escaped, if any of them sent word back to the Empire, Earth would be in danger, real danger, the kind that ended civilizations. "We can't take prisoners," he said finally. "We're not ready for that. We don't have the facilities, and we can't risk them getting a message out." He returned to his chair. "Destroy them completely. Leave no trace." The Phoenix's main weapon, the hammer, charged up. It took 30 seconds. The lights on the bridge dimmed as power was redirected. Then it fired. A wave of pure energy erupted from the Phoenix. It struck the ship and kept going. The alien vessel didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. Atoms scattered into nothing. There was no debris, no wreckage, just empty space. Silence fell on the bridge. Minyu let out a long breath. "It's done." His voice came over the communicator. "Engine room here, all systems stable. The ship performed perfectly. Added reactor output holding. No problems on my end." Doctor checked her readings. No signals were transmitted. The Empire doesn't know what happened here. Minyu nodded slowly. They had won. Their first battle, their first victory. Earth had struck back against the aliens who had dismissed them as nothing. But this was only the beginning. They would eventually notice their missing patrol. They would come looking, and next time there might be more than 2 ships. "Set a course back to base," Minyu ordered. "We have a lot of work to do." The Phoenix turned and headed home. Behind it, the empty space where 2 alien ships had been was quiet and dark. But the message had been sent, not to the stars, not yet, but to the humans themselves. They could fight, they could win, and when the time came they would be ready. 18 months passed after the battle. Earth changed. The governments of the world learned what had happened. At first they were afraid. Then they were angry. Finally they came together. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed on one thing: they would never be helpless again. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. Scientists who once studied medicine now studied alien technology. Young people who once dreamed of office jobs now trained for space combat. The whole planet was preparing for war. They built more ships, not as powerful as the Phoenix, not yet, but smaller vessels that could support it. Fighters, transport ships, mining vessels to gather resources from asteroids. A fleet was growing. Walk through the shipyard that had been built near the original base. Massive structures rose around him. Ships in various stages of construction filled the docks. Workers moved everywhere, busy and determined. He was not young anymore. His hair was starting to turn gray. Lines marked his face, but his eyes were still bright with purpose. Found him standing near the edge of the shipyard, looking out at the mountains where they had first found the crashed vessel. "You're being nostalgic again," she said. Smiled, just remembering. It's hard to believe how much has changed. Stood beside him. She had changed too. She was no longer just a physics student. She was now the head of the entire energy research division. Her work had given humanity new power sources that were cleaner and stronger than anything before. "I heard the news," said. "They're coming." Nodded, her face was serious. Doctors' predictions were right. They noticed their missing patrol. They sent a search party. When that disappeared too, they got suspicious. She paused. "A fleet is heading toward Earth. 20 ships. They'll be here in 3 weeks. Took a deep breath. 20 ships. Far more than they had faced before. Far more than anyone had hoped for in this first real confrontation. "Are we ready?" he asked. Looked at the shipyard, at the workers, at the fleet that was being born from human determination. "We have to be." The next 3 weeks were chaos. The fleet was rushed to completion. Crews were trained as fast as possible. Every weapon was tested. Every system was checked. Minyu led the training exercises. He pushed the new crews hard, harder than many thought was fair. But he knew what was coming. He had seen the up close. He knew how dangerous they were. Doctor coordinated everything from a command center they had built deep underground. Screens covered the walls, showing every ship, every resource, every piece of data. She was the brain of the operation, and nothing happened without her knowledge. On the day the fleet arrived, Humanity was waiting. The Phoenix led the defense. Behind it came 12 smaller warships, all built using the hybrid technology. Fighter craft filled the spaces between them. Satellites and defense platforms orbited Earth, ready to provide support. It was not a large force compared to but it was everything humanity had. Minyu stood on the bridge of the Phoenix. Around him, his crew worked their stations with focused intensity. The fear was there, hiding behind their eyes, but so was courage. "Contact confirmed," the sensor operator reported. 20 warships. They're coming out of faster-than-light travel now. On the main screen, the fleet appeared. It was a terrifying sight. Each ship was larger than the Phoenix. Their dark hulls gleamed with cruel beauty. Their weapons bristled along their sides. They arranged themselves in a perfect formation, military, disciplined, confident. A communication came through. "Primitive beings of this planet," the voice said, clicking and humming. "You have attacked vessels of the Empire. This is a crime punishable by extinction. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will burn your world until nothing remains." Minyu listened to the message. Then he opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "All ships, this is Commander Minyu. You heard them. They think we're primitives. They think we'll surrender. They think they can threaten our world and we'll just accept it." He paused. "They're wrong. 5 years ago, they threw a broken ship on our planet because they thought we were too stupid to matter. We took that ship and turned it into the weapon that destroyed their patrol. Now they've come back with an army, expecting to find scared animals." His voice grew harder. "Let's show them what they're really dealing with. All ships, attack formation. Target the lead vessels. We hit them hard and we hit them fast. Today, we don't just defend our world. We announce to the entire galaxy that humanity is here, and we will never ever kneel." The human fleet moved forward. The battle began. It was violent and chaotic. Energy beams crisscrossed the darkness of space. Missiles exploded against shields. Ships twisted and turned, trying to gain advantage. They were skilled. They had been fighting wars across the galaxy for thousands of years. Their tactics were polished. Their crews were experienced. But the humans had something they did not expect: desperation, creativity, the willingness to take risks that no sane military force would consider. The Phoenix dove directly into the center of the formation. It was a suicidal move by any normal standard, but Minyu had planned it carefully. He called out, "I need everything you have, maximum power." In the engine room, pushed the reactors beyond their safety limits. Warning lights flashed. Alarms screamed. She ignored them all. "You'll have your power," she said through gritted teeth. "Just don't waste it." The Phoenix's weapons blazed with terrible light. At point-blank range, even the shields could not hold. 2 enemy ships exploded. A third lost its engines and began to drift. The smaller human ships followed the Phoenix's lead. They swarmed around attacking from angles the aliens did not expect. The fighters were like insects, small and annoying, but they kept the distracted. Watched the battle from the engineering station. He was not a soldier. He could not fire weapons or command fleets, but he could keep the ship running. He could make sure that every system performed at its best. When a power conduit burst, he fixed it in seconds. When an engine threatened to overheat, he found a way to cool it. He moved through the ship like its heartbeat, keeping it alive when it should have died. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Bodies floated in the void. Wreckage spread across the space between Earth and the Moon. But slowly, incredibly, the tide began to turn. They had expected to crush the humans quickly. They had not prepared for a long fight. Their formation broke apart as they tried to deal with the unexpected resistance. Their coordination failed. And then the hammer fired. The wave of energy caught 3 ships at once. They vanished, just like the patrol vessels before them. The remaining saw their comrades disappear and felt something they had not felt in centuries. Fear. "They're retreating," Doctor reported from her command center. "The remaining ships are falling back." On the bridge, Minyu watched the fleet turn and run. 8 ships had survived out of 20. They were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. He could pursue, he could try to destroy more of them, but his own fleet was damaged. His people were exhausted. He had to know when to stop. "Let them go," he ordered. "They'll carry the message back to their empire." His voice came over the communicator. "What message is that?" Minyu looked at the retreating ships, at the debris field that had once been their fleet, at Earth, blue and green and beautiful, hanging in the darkness behind him. "That they made a mistake," he said. "That the garbage they threw away has become their worst nightmare. That the primitives they ignored are coming for them." He sat back in his chair. "The Empire has conquered the galaxy for thousands of years. They've never met a species that could truly challenge them." He smiled. It was cold. It was hard. It was the smile of a species that had finally found its purpose. Until now. Across the fleet, humans cheered. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy that should have destroyed them, they had won. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. They would return, with more ships, with more weapons, with the full might of their empire. And when they did, humanity would be ready. Stood at the engineering console, his hands resting on the controls he knew so well. He thought about the journey from that snowy mountain to this moment. From a broken, abandoned ship to a fleet that had defeated an empire's attack force. Joined him, her face tired but triumphant. "We did it," she said. Nodded. "The first step. What's the next one?" He looked out the window at the stars. So many stars, so many worlds, a galaxy full of species that had lived under rule for. "We find allies," he said. "We build more ships, we get stronger." He turned to his sister. "And when we're ready, we don't wait for them to come to us." "Understood, we go to them." "Yes." Eyes were bright with determination. "They threw us away because they thought we were nothing. They came back to destroy us because we dared to fight, but they don't understand what they've done." He looked at Earth one more time, the planet that had raised them, the home they would always protect. "They've woken us up, they've united us, they've given us a reason to reach for the stars." He turned back to the controls. "And now we're coming for them." The Phoenix and its fleet returned to Earth as heroes, but they did not rest. They could not rest. There was too much work to do, too many ships to build, too many people to train. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. But their reign was ending. Humanity had announced itself, with fire, with determination, with the broken ship that had been left on their world like garbage. And the galaxy would never be the same.